Welcome to this edition of the Magical Human Show with myself, Claire the Oily Witch, and
June Tranmer, well-being consultant.
today, cat mother, many other things. Cat
Simply
grandmother,
cat
sorry,
grandmother. Yes, yes.
cat grandmother.
Simplified. I just thought, what the hell? Yeah, can't go into them all. I always forget something anyway. I introduced myself in a meeting yesterday and completely forgot about one of my many prongs.
Yes, you are a learned lady, and that is why I enjoy your discussion so much because you have so much to share that is enjoyable and interesting.
Well, and you and I feel that we never stop learning, and
No.
I'm so curious about things that keep coming up. And yet again this morning, in between my navigating the electricity thing, which I said I wasn't going to mention, but I'll just say it. I'm still working that out. It's a minefield. When I figure more out, I will report back on it because it just raises more and more questions the whole time. But I was listening to Michael Tellinger, who is another one of these guys who's been exploring ancient monuments in southern Africa, because that's where he lives. 100 million, maybe? Just the numbers get ridiculous. No, 100 million, I don't know. 100,000 monuments at least was confirmed by someone else, but he is now suspecting that there were massive populations in Africa hundreds of thousands of, if not millions of years ago. And they have got stone circles. They've had them for a long time. People have known about them, but they were, the usual narrative, oh, they're 6,000 years old or whatever. But actually, they're not. They're way older.
Wow.
Mm.
And that is in South Africa or just Southern
Oh,
Africa?
he's been all around Southern Africa. So that includes Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe,
Wow.
and Swaziland or whatever it's called now. It's called something else.
My mum is from Zimbabwe. That's interesting.
Ah, ooh,
Yeah,
used to be the breadbasket of Africa.
I know.
Mm,
It's what's happened in that land has broken her heart many times over.
I
And
bet.
the people that used to, live there and had to leave because of the political situation getting so uncomfortable. I mean, it,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It really is. But, that is progress. That's what happens. Cycles, people go through things.
Cycles, whether it's progress or not, I think it
Yeah,
is
I know. As
cycles.
I said that, I
Like
thought
it's the evolution. It's the evolution of things.
evolution. Okay, we can
And
have
in a
that.
way, it was meant to be, but it's so painful.
I know. And then, so are all these statues above ground or below ground or monuments or whatever?
Well, a lot of them are above ground. Yeah. Yeah. They've been known about for a long time.
I guess they're probably well preserved in that dry heat
Probably. Yeah.
because there wouldn't be kind of water to attack it.
Mm,
Generally does quite well in sand, which is why
mm. There
the
is the flood season. No, but they call it the flood season. Um, I lived in Botswana for a bit, you see, and it rained every November to January. It rained quite a lot, but then it didn't rain the rest of the year at all.
when were you living in Botswana?
Oh, 1977,
Was this
maybe
before or
78.
after Brighton?
Um, After, um,
I told you she was interesting, everyone.
hang on. And she's also losing her memory. Too many things to remember. But what with these parallel lives and whatnot,
Yeah,
and the
well,
Akashic records, I just, yeah, I don't know.
I've just literally finished with a client, which is why I was a bit like, and I was saying to her, we were talking about memory, and I said, the more you connect with the world and your spirit and the spiritual things, the less your memory functions because your other skills come into play, your sense of intuition, you really have to wing it much more often because
Mm.
you can't remember stuff. So you have to intuit your way through life
Yeah.
and trust that the right information will turn up at the right time. And I really feel that. I feel that we remember what we're meant to remember. And I think that that kind of this reliance on photographic memory is a very yang kind of um, skill set that actually the conscious mind can only carry a certain amount of information. So the more strands of kind of feedback you're open to receiving, the less space. So it's going to get filled up. So the more interesting you are, the less good your memory is. How do we like that?
I think that's a very good explanation. And I think the older you get, the more stuff you have got to remember. And I keep saying to people, it's like the filing cabinets get filled up and a lot of things slip to the back because they're not relevant right now. Me being in Botswana is only relevant because I know what it feels like to be there. And I had a really strong feeling of connection to it when I went there. It was the second year of my university degree, which was a 4-year linguistics course. And um, the task was that we had to go somewhere where people were learning languages. We were studying language acquisition. And there were three strands. This is a long story. Three strands to the course. There was English, people who did English major type of thing, French and German. And they were analyzing in those different groups the origins of those languages and the ancient languages that were connected to our languages. So German and French and English do share quite a lot of common things, but then there are different things. And then we all looked at completely different scripts. So there was the opportunity to do Chinese, which I didn't take, which was quite interesting. I went for the Swahili, and then there was Hindu, and that was based on the fact that we had overseas students in the graduate department who were willing to help us study those languages. So they drew from the pool of resources
So you
they
speak
had
Swahili.
a little bit,
Amazing.
a little bit.
Amazing.
I've still got the books, and I've still got the book of Setswana that I got, so I could learn Setswana as it's a subset of a Bantu language family, and Setswana is a bit different to Swahili, but very similar roots and expressions and so on. But that was 1977. Bearing in mind it was pre-children, that's for sure. That's fixed in my brain. That started in 1982. So Brighton was before that. Yeah, Brighton was before that. Now that we've
Nearly
got that
50
in
years
common.
ago.
I know, man.
I
Oh,
know, man, because I'm nearly 50 and I was born in 75. So literally a shade away from that. But anyway, we have a full moon, a Scorpio full moon,
very exciting.
Willow on Monday. So that's a very exciting for us because Willow is the tree. When I think of Willow, I think of Willow and how Willow flexes and kind of, it protects and it flexes, and you can build fences out of it. You can build cradles out of it. You can build caskets out of it to ship off your dead.
Yes.
So it's very much a kind of, sacred, protective, maternal, emotional tree, and it's ruled by the moon. So this, and Scorpio, if we think about Scorpio, and you obviously are the embodiment of Scorpio, but Scorpio is the kind of, deep emotions, the very depth of the emotions, like the deepest ones are not necessarily the nicest ones either, the ones that
Mm.
prefer to keep hidden, the kind of darker side of light, the plutonic side of life. So you've got, Willow, Scorpio, so death. So this full moon really calls for a chance to again end patterns, ancestral karmic patterns. So that's the kind of energy of it. So don't be surprised if you're triggered into remembering something you thought you'd done a good job of burying, and that needs to come up into the light. And that may inform a behavior or a filter that is perhaps blocking you in some way in your journey today. That's how it works, folks. So it could be really good. I mean, I'm going to love it because Scorpio, water, my moon's in Taurus, they're opposed. So, as in oppositional signs. So it should be fine for me. I'm not expecting anything. I don't feel uncomfortable yet. Some moons, I can really feel them coming in. I feel deeply uncomfortable. What do
Yeah,
you think about what I just said, June, and how do you feel?
I do. And I realized that I promised I would talk about willow flower essence.
Yes.
And I'm now searching for it, which is why I'm looking here because it's not happening.
While
Um,
you do that, I will bring out my white willow bark. So I'm making a tea.
oh,
I'm drinking a tea a lot with white willow bark because next Saturday, not this Saturday, Saturday after, I have my full willow moon ceremony. So I try and get in the tree barks so that people can really embody the thing. So while she's looking for that, so white willow bark is really good for back pain, lower back pain, that is, which would explain the emotions and all of what we've just talked about. Scorpio rule the genitalia, so it's kind of like that area of the body. And the sacral chakra is responsible for our relationships with other osteoarthritis. So it helps with release. So where you're again, where you've got stiff, it brings in flow. Headaches, as we know, salic acid is the foundation of aspirin, so blood thinning. So there's a good thing for the heart. Really good for inflammation, bursitis, tendonitis, interesting, and emotions of love and giving healing inspiration. So
well,
that
yes. And on the blood thing, it's worth remembering that um, blood thinners and not blood thinners, aspirin, not aspirin, yes,
aspirin thins the
is
blood.
based on willow, isn't
Yeah,
it?
salic acid.
Yeah, here we are.
Your flow.
Willow flower essence from the Healing Herbs website. For those who have suffered adversity or misfortune and find these difficult to accept without complaint or resentment, as they judge life much by the success with which it brings. So people are feeling hard done by, why did this happen to me type of thing. And sometimes you can get stuck in that loop, really. Um, They feel they've not deserved so great a trial, that it was unjust. They become embittered. They often take less interest and less activity in those things of life which they had previously enjoyed. So that's one of the indications that a practitioner who's maybe just working on characteristics would go for. But if you're using muscle testing or dowsing, things come up that aren't so obvious. And I have always tended to use that technique to find the right remedies for people because it isn't always what you observe on the surface or even indeed what they talk about. Because a lot of people have got hidden depths. And I like to think I'm pretty good at finding those hidden depths and just gently teasing them out and not going, here's your awful mask. I don't want to do that to people, but gently saying, well, what do you think about that subject? How do you feel? Is there anything in your life that feels like that? And so that's kind of a nice way to approach that. But yeah, this full moon is very exciting. It's the moon omens people who I love on Instagram posted up something about it being a real turning point for a lot of people this week. A lot of things are going to change. And in fact, my daughter and the cats and her husband are getting on a plane on Monday and they'll be in Thailand next week. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So you raised the money.
No, what happened? She found, I love Emirates Airlines. I'll just put a plug in here for them. They never came up in her searches before, but they've got a pet cargo service that is probably a different company underneath Emirates, but it seems very thorough, very caring, and only £10,000. If you went for that first, you'd go, what? But as you're coming backwards from 50, it's kind of a bargain. It's like
And has she raised 10
100%
grand?
Yeah, they have it. They have it.
Oh, June, that is the power of mama. That's because of you. So,
Well, and their own determination, but they had to look at some stuff before they unblocked what was blocking them because they kept hitting doors that kept shutting. And I'm going, right, you need to talk to my friend Trudy and look at the Akashic records because she was offering that to me. And I looked at it and I said, what can I do to help and support them? And then Elena had a look, and then her husband was so unhappy and depressed. And I think a lot of it is his male pride, feeling like he should have been able to sort this out without having to ask for help. You know, he felt he it was his job to look after his family, and he was feeling a bit nose out of joint. But not with me, but just with he was just those were his feelings that were coming up. I think he hasn't spoken about them to me, but this is just what I've intuited. Elena said he was struggling, and I figured that was it. But it's also because he's leaving his dear mom. I mean, he is only going to be 4 hours away. It's not that much further than where they are now because it takes them ages to get to the main island. So what they're going to do is they're going to set off on Sunday, cats on a speedboat, going to the main island in their crates. They've got to take horrible gabapentin medication to make them
go to sleep.
sleepy. Yeah. So, but she knows what to do. She's got homeopathic remedies for helping clear that stuff. She's going to be in the plane with them and sending them love through the layers of the plane. And they're going to be down in the hold with some human who is supposed to be a pet lover. And they go to Dubai. It takes 8 hours. So that's why they're setting off on Sunday, so they can stay overnight in town and then get on the plane on Monday. And then Dubai 8 hours, and then hanging about in Dubai. And there's actually a vet in Dubai airport. That airport's got everything you could ever want, including trees. I mean, it's incredible. And inside the airport, it's
And
mad.
then, so how long's the journey that everyone's got to take altogether?
And then there's a further 6 hours
Exactly.
from
So you've
from
got,
Dubai to Bangkok. So it's going to be 24 hours traveling altogether. Yeah, pretty much.
and the cats will be wiped out for most of it.
Hopefully they will not suffer too much. I mean, physically they're going to be all right. Emotionally, they're going to be kind of,
Well, not if they're out of it. They won't really remember, but they will
yeah.
struggle with being in a new place.
Well, as soon as they get there, they're going to get so excited, running around and exploring all the new smells and the space.
You'll
Oh
have
my
to keep
gosh.
people up to date with kind of, they'll have to be like the cat stories. We're all invested now. We
Yeah,
need to
yeah, yeah. I know, I know. She's got to send me pictures of them running around looking happy.
videos and stuff. How did the cats go?
She didn't want to post the pictures of the house because
No, she
it's
doesn't want
very
to do that.
public. So we
But you
have to
can
do
make
just
it like
pictures of
you
the
don't have,
cat.
this is my address. You can just do the video. They won't be able to tell.
Mm,
Wow.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
thank you.
So yeah,
Woof.
I know.
So what else I'm trying to think what else has been going on. Because I'm just becoming myself. Ah, so one of my realizations recently, another one of my realizations recently, which I kind of knew anyway, was the fact that some people, myself included, and probably you, seemingly are people that seem to have a lot of things that go wrong for them in their lives. Things don't run smoothly, and there doesn't seem to be much respite between one landmine and another. And it can feel like, that you're doing something wrong, or, the person on the receiving end can feel quite, in some respects, a little bit toxic because it's like, why does it always go wrong? What am I doing, etc.
Mm,
And when I was treating someone else, it came to my mind clearly that the leaders, that is the way they test leaders, or leaders get tested, because we have to go through a very vast array of scenarios to be pummeled around and have all the ego battered out of us, so that when we get to a position of power, there is no longer any self-serving desire for power for the wrong reasons. So there's a kind of egoless power base where actually you want to bring people up with you. There's no need for greed. And so that is what I think is behind that. So if you're someone that's being battered about by life quite a lot and still managing to hang on in there and not give your final curtain call early, which is your response, it's fine, no judgment here, then I would say that you are one of the leaders and to acknowledge your scars, your wounds, your all of that as a kind of preparation ground for, yeah, holding power.
For the next phase.
What do you think?
I totally agree with that. That sounds very real and very reasonable. And I think we are going to all be called to step up in this next
Oh,
little while because people have waited for someone else to look after things for way too long. And look where it's got us. More wars, more shortages of things, more toxic things causing ill health, all that kind of stuff. And people have had this stuff done to them in the name of their own well-being, and it's all for your own good. Well,
well,
only we know what's for our own good, really. But if we're continually looking outside of ourselves for people to tell us this, then we're going to feel inadequate. And I'll keep my head down and I'll just make it through every day and I'll just do my job and hope nobody notices me. But that's the problem with that is it doesn't work very well, especially for me. Even if I'm trying to keep quiet and still, somehow people still notice me. So I just like, well, whatever. I'll just have to embrace it.
yeah, yeah, no, I'm the same. I always always got the blame even when I wasn't even in the place. But yeah, it's
Yes,
just
I
one of
wasn't
those.
there, but it was your fault anyway.
I
Yeah.
know you incited that person to think that way. How could I do that? This is someone you're calling someone you could never be influenced or told what to do, and yet you think I've got the power to tell them what to do. It's like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Totally. And it is, it's about the journey into personal ascension, into our highest level of sovereignty, so that we can be our own masters. Ultimately, everyone can be their own masters.
And didn't we actually come here to help?
Yes.
Let's just put that out there because I
Well,
don't
we
think we
all
just
did.
came here to eat chips and watch Korean dramas. I mean, we could, but it's not the answer to everything.
Very nice answer. But no, it's not. No, exactly. But that's the point. Everybody came here to help, and it doesn't matter what role they play. Their role is as valid as the next person's role. There is no hierarchy of roles, even, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And those who do acquire power too soon, before they've learned the humility, generally come a cropper.
Yes, yes. Or never feel truly happy because, again, relying on something external to bring happiness. And it's like, that's not how it works. It's got to come from
Yeah.
inside. It's really important. So that was, yeah. And this whole thing about money, I'm still following Harry B. Joseph and the revival of wisdom. And he was talking about money and how, we won't lose our reliance on it until we stop giving it power. And we give it power because we give it power. That's as simple as that. We give it power,
Yeah.
money. And so if we take the power out of the money and just stop being in lack, then flow can happen. And it's all a bit irrelevant because life isn't really about money. It's about the process and, something will always fall into place. It's when we start going into fear that we distort the flow.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, because large amounts of money do frighten a lot of people. Everybody looked at that fundraiser and went, "What?" And then they either thought, well, I can't help because there's no way my little bit will make any difference. That's the kind of thing that happens with people. It's like voting and it's like, well, why will my vote matter? And why will where I drop my rubbish matter? And
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. Every single thought we think matters, not just what we physically do. When we're thinking about energy and we think really nasty thoughts about people and say awful things about people, then that ripples out there. And
Yeah.
I think we can't always be nice, nice. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Scorpio, for heaven's sakes. I wouldn't expect that of anybody. But I think we have to acknowledge those feelings and just be aware that it is kind of like carrying a very sharp knife.
Mm.
And you can end up poking other people and yourself.
But it comes back, doesn't it? That's
It
good
absolutely
karma.
does.
Comes back thrice. Well,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
it's better. It's like being involved in gossip is a very low level vibrational thing. Because if you're talking about someone behind their back, things you wouldn't say to their face, you're
Hmm.
putting out there kind
Hmm.
of miasmic, kind of ill
And
got frequencies that are just gonna, like moths, but moths are beautiful, but okay, not.
yeah, it's just kind of wisps of stuff. That's why people say I felt my ears burning. They know. People know when you're talking about them. They do feel it. Yeah, for sure. I know well, there's two things here. There's Michael, back to Michael Tellinger again. He was also talking about money and how gold was always the most valued thing. And he talked about the Anunnaki, which I'd like to ask you what you know about that, because I know virtually nothing except I recognize the name, like all these names of the tiny dwarf planets and all of that stuff out there. I go, oh, familiar, but I don't know. Don't consciously know. But yeah, and he was saying that how they really valued gold, and then it became something that people offered to the priest royalty that were the first layer of the hierarchies that came here. Yeah, it's interesting. And then how it became represented by bits of paper.
Gold was
Mhm.
used is it was sprayed into the atmosphere to harmonize the atmosphere. So that's what originally was going on. So that's pre-crop spraying, obviously, and pre.
Maybe they should start doing that then.
Yeah, absolutely. It harmonizes the atmosphere. It's a very magical property. And you think of gold, it comes almost, it's carrying the sun, it's carrying the light. It's an amazing thing, and it's very protective, is gold. So if you go into gold, it's kind of, it keeps things in.
Well,
So,
they used to inject it into people with for arthritis. My grandmother had gold injections for arthritis.
oh, nice. Did she say it
Well,
worked?
I don't know. I don't think so because a lot of her arthritis was emotional.
I
And gold carries yes, I mean sure it should have done, but it didn't. We had loads of streaks by the way this morning which have now since melded away, but they were definitely crisscrossing and stuff. It was yeah.
We're
Mm.
clear here, really clear, but that's just now. I can't speak for the rest of the day. I think it's been clear most of today, but yesterday wasn't particularly clear in the morning, and then it was allowed to clear up as an event in the afternoon. But yes, so the Anunnaki, as I
Mhm.
understand it, weren't they like one of the civilizations that came down to Earth to help create Earth, and then did they go a bit rogue?
Well,
And
are they the Lemurians? Are they
they're not the
is
lizard
that
people.
I don't know. I'm going to look it up. I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
we can do a little search and we'll find out. Mm.
yeah, I'm thinking that they became the lizard people. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah.
they may have mutated with humans, interacted with human life form, and then you got these kind of hybrids, which may have been the lizard.
Um,
But
int-
yeah, I mean, there's clearly been civilizations on this planet prior to, what we are told in the mainstream narrative. It's kind of funny almost that, people thought that anyone that believed the story of Adam and Eve was so naive against Charles Darwin's kind of, theories and about the kind of dinosaurs and evolution and all this kind of stuff. And yet, if you look into it, the story of Adam and Eve, and if you read the Bible in the way that Harry B. Joseph is inviting you to read it, then you realize that actually the Bible is accurate. It's just not, it's a metaphor. It's not an
yes.
actual kind of, reality. And yeah, it's symbolic. And so it's kind of, and actually the evolution theory that we've been told might not be as clear as we've been told. So it's kind of like these it's all movable, isn't it? And yet we're in a matrix anyway. So, it's
Mm.
like so many different yeah, movable kind of parts and dimensions going on as well. I mean, Jesus, when you heal someone, you're going backwards into the present and forwards. It's like,
Yeah.
clearing it from all the different places. It's just, yeah, there's so much more to learn, and it's really deeply enjoyable for both of us, which
Mm, I
is
love it. I'm never going to get bored.
me neither. Shall we
Never ever.
shall we end on that note, Joe? June, say
That's
bye.
that's that's really a good place to
We're
stop.
never
Yeah.
going to get
No
bored. Neither
boredom.
are you if you carry on following us. Blessed be one and all. Enjoy the full moon.